Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. It's Wednesday, January 6th, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-kyun. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. North Korea raised its curtains on its long-anticipated 8th Workers' Party Congress in Pyongyang on Tuesday. Kim Jong-un admitted the failure of his 5-year economic development strategy and vowed to come up with further strategic and tactical policies for the development of the regime. South Korea reports 840 new COVID-19 cases Tuesday, remaining below the 1,000 mark for the second straight day. Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun called for efforts to keep a close eye on nursing facilities, stressing the importance of preemptive measures in order to reduce death rate. And the World Bank forecasts 4% growth for 2021, down 0.2 percentage points from the previous forecast of 4.2%. Our top story this morning, senior North Korean officials convened the first day of the regime's Workers' Party Congress on Tuesday. It's the first gathering of its kind in almost 5 years, and the second since Kim Jong-un took power around a decade ago. Now, for more on this, we have our Unification Ministry correspondent, Kim Da-mi, on the line for us. Tami, what are we hearing about day one?
Mo-kyun, as widely expected, North Korea raised the curtain on its 8th Workers' Party Congress in Pyongyang at 9 a.m. local time on Tuesday. Kim Jong-un kicked the proceedings off with an opening address, admitting his previous 5-year economic development strategy had failed. He said results in most areas fell far short of their goals. Kim added he will suggest a key line of strategic and tactical policies so those external and internal challenges no longer hinder development. And the last Congress, the first day did not include a message to Seoul or Washington. But the Congress is expected to cover Kim's new 5-year economic development plan in the coming days.
Now, Tami, the regime has not revealed the specific agenda for the Congress. Any special reasons why?
Right. Details have been few and far between. Contrast this time to the last Congress in 2016, when the regime unveiled a specific schedule 10 days in advance. Observers point to the possible internal and external problems caused by the pandemic. It could also be that the North is trying to highlight the significance of the event by making the various announcements a surprise. The 7th Workers' Party Congress lasted 4 days. While it's unknown how long it'll go on for this time, watchers say it will likely wrap up after 3 days given the COVID-19 situation. On top of that, January 8th is Kim Jong-un's birthday. Some 7,000 people, including roughly 5,000 delegates, attended on Tuesday, possibly an attempt to signal that the regime has the pandemic under control. North Korea still claims to have 0 confirmed cases of COVID-19. That's all I have for now. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Tami. Now, moving on to the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea, the country reported 840 new cases on Wednesday, staying below the 1,000 mark for the second straight day. Despite the slight decline, cluster infections continue across the nation, with many fatalities from nursing facilities. In a meeting earlier in the day, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun called for efforts to keep close tabs on nursing facilities, stressing the importance of preemptive measures in order to reduce the death rate. Of Wednesday's new cases, 809 were locally transmitted and 31 were from overseas. There have been 20 more deaths, raising the death toll to 1,027. The South Korean government is set to roll out the details of additional economic relief measures for vulnerable groups affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, including the self-employed and freelancers. This comes as the cabinet approved the government's plan to provide some $8.5 billion as financial support for 5.8 million people. Text messages will be sent out to freelancers who are eligible starting Wednesday, with the relief handouts to begin next Monday. Freelancers whose income decreased amid the pandemic will be eligible to receive up to $900. Similar messages will be sent next Monday to small business owners who are eligible to receive up to $2,700, depending on the nature of their business. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to batter many parts of the world, including Japan, which may enter a state of emergency in the coming days. And also, despite having the highest vaccination rate in the world, for the first time ever, the UK surpassed 60,000 new cases in the past 24 hours. Lee Seung-jae has more.
On Tuesday, Japan reported 4,907 infections in a 24-hour time span, surpassing its previous daily record reported on December 31st. 76 more people died from the virus, raising the total death toll to 3,741. This figure is also the highest daily figure reported in Japan since the start of the pandemic. Due to the record numbers, Japan may enter a state of emergency this week, with local media reporting it may be declared on Thursday or Friday and could last a month. Japan previously declared a state of emergency from April to May last year. In the UK, the country set another daily record for infections, reporting over 60,000 cases in the past 24 hours for the first time since the pandemic. Infection numbers continue to rise, despite the UK having the highest vaccination rate in the world. According to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Tuesday, 1.3 million people have now been vaccinated in the UK, including 23% of those over 80 years old. Elsewhere in Europe, Germany's state and federal governments agreed on Tuesday to extend and expand its COVID-19 lockdown measures. They include closing schools and will be in place until at least the end of this month. The new lockdown measures also include travel restrictions of more than 15 kilometers without a valid reason for residents of areas deemed COVID-19 hotspots. Contact at private meetings will also be restricted to just one other person not living in the same household. Other measures, including negative test results for those arriving in Germany from high-risk areas, and extra leave for parents to look after their children. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Various diplomatic channels with Iran are being utilized for the release of the South Korean-flagged chemical tanker seized by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Seoul's foreign ministry will send a negotiating team to Tehran today to reach a breakthrough. Our foreign affairs correspondent Heung-min has more.
After a South Korean-flagged oil tanker was seized in the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, Seoul's presidential office held an emergency meeting with related ministries. The situation was reported to President Moon by National Security Advisor Heung-min right away, and the response team has been tasked with solving the problem. The incident happened ahead of a planned visit to Iran this coming Sunday by Seoul's first Vice Foreign Minister Choi Jong-un. The Foreign Ministry said Choi will leave for Tehran on Sunday as planned. A negotiating team is expected to depart for Iran as early as Wednesday afternoon.
The South Korean government will do all it can to solve this problem as soon as possible by sending a negotiating team and using local diplomatic channels, including the visit by Vice Foreign Minister Choi Jong-un that was planned earlier.
Seoul's foreign ministry on Tuesday summoned the Iranian ambassador to issue a complaint and demand the prompt release of the ship's crew. On Monday, the U.S. State Department called on Iran to immediately release the tanker, saying the regime continues to threaten navigational rights and freedoms in the Persian Gulf. The Iranian government on Tuesday rejected allegations that its seizure of the South Korean vessel amounted to hostage-taking, and it was South Korea that was holding its $7 billion hostage.
If there is any hostage-taking, it is Korea's government that is holding more than $7 billion, which belongs to us.
It has been reported that around $7 billion worth of Iranian oil money has been frozen at two South Korean banks. Iran has been reportedly asking South Korea to use the frozen assets to buy COVID-19 vaccines from the COVAX facility. Iran said it seized the ship because of environmental pollution, but some analysts see this as being related to the tensions between Iran and the U.S. The U.S. imposed sanctions on Iran after President Trump withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal and urged other countries to follow suit. Others say the incident was meant to send a warning to the U.S. before the start of the Biden administration, as Iran officially mourns the killing of Iranian military leader Qasem Soleimani by the U.S. a year ago in Baghdad. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Following the worst global recession in decades in 2020, the World Bank says the world economy appears to be beginning what it dubs a subdued recovery. It forecasts 4% growth in 2021, but only 1.6% if the pandemic is not fully controlled or if vaccine distribution gets delayed. Our Kim Jae-hee with more.
The World Bank has revised its global growth estimate for 2020 and its outlook for 2021. In its latest Global Economic Prospects report, the World Bank says the global economy is estimated to have contracted 4.3% in 2020, less severe than its earlier expectation of negative 5.2%. But it forecasts 4% growth for 2021, down 0.2 percentage points from the previous forecast of 4.2%. The report says that even with the expected 4% growth in 2021, the global economy will remain more than 5% below pre-pandemic projections. The World Bank explains that its growth estimate for 2020 was revised up thanks to slightly less severe contractions in advanced economies and a more robust recovery in China. But the outlook for 2021 has dimmed in the near term due to the recent resurgence of COVID-19. Specifically, advanced economies are projected to grow 3.3% in 2021 on the back of widespread vaccinations and monetary policy accommodation. Emerging markets and developing economies are forecast to see 5% growth in 2021. China is expected to see 7.9% growth this year, and India 5.4%. The Eurozone is forecast to see its GDP grow 3.6%, and the U.S. 3.5%. Global trade growth is expected to improve modestly, seeing 5% growth in 2021 after tumbling 9.5% in 2020. However, the World Bank warns that substantial risks remain. In a downside scenario in which vaccine distribution is delayed and infections continue to rise, global growth would recover just 1.6% in 2021. But if the pandemic is successfully controlled and vaccine deployment happens faster than expected, growth could accelerate to around 5%. The World Bank is urging policymakers to put priority on ensuring rapid vaccine deployment and facilitating a reinvestment cycle that's less dependent on government debt to support the global recovery. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday signed an executive order banning transactions using 8 Chinese software applications. According to Reuters, the order targets Alipay, WeChat Pay, Cam Scanner, among 5 other popular Chinese-owned apps, and the Commerce Department is now tasked with outlining exactly what type of transactions are banned under this measure. President Trump previously expressed discomfort about the large user bases and access to sensitive data that the Chinese software makers hold. The move undermines the potential threat that Chinese apps pose to Americans by having such access. Any transactions prohibited by the Trump administration are likely to face court challenges. South Korean shipbuilders have topped world ranking for orders for the 3rd year in a row. Clarkson Research Service, a provider of data for global shipping, said Tuesday that South Korea alone took up more than 40% of worldwide ship orders in 2020, with China, Japan, and Russia in the said order following closely behind. Industry experts say that South Korea has excelled in the production of super-large LNG and crude carriers and large container ships. Now in sports, Tottenham Hotspur forward Heung-min has reached a new career milestone, making him the first Asian player to score 150 goals in European football. This comes after Son scored Spurs' second goal in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup on Tuesday. Our Choi Min-jung has more.
Tottenham Hotspur star Heung-min has scored his 150th goal in top-flight European football, making him the very first Asian player to reach the milestone. Playing against Brentford in the Carabao Cup semi-final on Tuesday, the South Korean forward stroked home in the 70th minute. The second-half strike helped Tottenham to a 2-0 win over Brentford, leaving Son just 1 victory away from picking up his first trophy with the club. Son has been in a fine run of form recently, confirming early promise shown after his first appearance in European football. Making his debut in 2010, Son netted 20 goals for Germany's Hamburg SV and hit another 29 goals for Bayer Leverkusen. The South Korean international reached an impressive 101 goals for Tottenham Hotspur on Tuesday, making him the first Asian player to score more than 100 goals for one team. Son has played a total of 419 times to reach his record-breaking 150 goals tally. The latest goal comes only a couple of days after Son reached the century mark for Spurs in a win against Leeds United. With the latest accomplishments, Son has tallied a total of 16 goals and 8 assists this season. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Good morning. Cover up from head to toe. A brutal cold spell starts today with more regions under cold wave alerts along with sharp winds. In fact, the freezing wind is especially dangerous as it removes the layer of warm air from around our bodies. And afternoon highs will be a few notches lower than yesterday. Seoul and Chuncheon getting up to -2 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Gwangju, and Gyeongju at just 1 degree Celsius with snow expected from this afternoon. So other than the East Coast, everywhere will be affected by heavy snowfall. West of the Jeollado provinces will see more than 30 centimeters of heavy snowfall with a heavy snow advisory remaining in place there. In fact, snow will continue to fall on Jeju and the Jeollado provinces for most of the week and possibly into the weekend. So please be extra careful out on the roads and stay safe. Snow will cause us headaches with the coldest temperatures of the season in store for the rest of the week. In fact, Friday could be the coldest winter day we have seen in Korea in 20 years. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's a wrap for us at the hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Mandatory